Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our intro to Google Tools, Docs, Sheets, and Slides. My name is Susan Winkler, and I'm our technology librarian here at the Champaign Public Library. I do want to let you know that today's webinar will be recorded, and we will make that available on our YouTube channel. Today we have Rebecca Van Dusen. She's going to be our instructor. And we also have Nathan, who's a practicum student here at the Champaign Library this semester, and he's going to be helping me with monitoring the chat. So I do want to mention a couple of things about Zoom. The chat, for one, is a place where you can ask us questions if you'd like, and then we will relay them to Rebecca. There is it looks like a little comment bubble down at the bottom of your screen on the kind of in the middle, and that is where you can access chat. There's also a raise hand button. If you have any technical questions or issues, feel free to use that raise your hand button. If you'd also like to speak your question out loud rather than typing it, please use that raise hand button, and we'll contact you and see if you'd like to have to be unmuted so that you can ask your question verbally yourself. There is also a live transcript button down there. It looks like a little CC in a little box if you'd like to enable the live transcription. I have done that for my machine, but each individual person has to say, yes, enable it, or if you don't want it, you can go ahead and hide it. And that is something that will help with being able to read whatever we're saying across the screen. Okay, so I do want to introduce Rebecca Van Dusen, who's going to be our instructor. How are you doing today, Rebecca?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How about you, Nathan?
I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I am very excited for us to get started learning about some Google tools. So I will go ahead and let Rebecca get started.
Okay, let me go ahead and just jump right in. Welcome, everybody. Let's share my screen so we can get the PowerPoint going. All right. So I hope you're seeing my PowerPoint.
Yes.
All right. Let me do slideshow. Okay, cool. So again, like Susan said, as I go through the webinar today, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I will be demonstrating certain things throughout as well. So if you want me to show something again, or just go in, if you have a question about anything, please let us know. We're definitely here to answer those questions. So don't be afraid to ask. That's the main thing. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about Google Tools. So we did touch on it a little bit if you attended our webinar last week, which was Intro to Cloud Storage. We touched on it a little bit with Google Drive, and we're going to talk about Google Drive as well, but we're also going to talk about some more stuff like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. So when we get into Google Drive, we'll also talk about template galleries, which is kind of a way that you can use one of Google's designs for either your document, your Excel sheet, or your slide. I guess I shouldn't say Excel because that's Microsoft. It's a Google sheet. We're also going to talk about downloading, permissions, and how to collaborate. That's one of the most, I would say, useful things about using Google Tools and Google Drive is the option to collaborate with people easily. Okay. So what are Google Tools? So basically, in short, Google has these products and services available to anybody that wants to sign up for it. It's totally free. You would just have to create a Gmail account. And what are these tools? So they range from sort of cloud-based productivity tools to apps for your phone. So for instance, you can get a Google Drive app on your phone. You probably heard of Google Maps before. You can get Google Maps on your phone. That's part of the Google Tools suite. And we'll talk a little bit more about what else is available. So Google Drive is a little different than Google Tools because Google Drive is the cloud-based file storage. So it's not really an application like Google Docs is. It's more of like a storage system. So that includes within Google Drive, you might see some stuff that you've been working on. So you might see some of your Google documents. You might see some Google Sheets slides or something that you've been working on in your Drive. And with Google Drive and Google Tools, you can do that collaboration. So it's real-time collaboration that you can work with through Google, and it will allow other users to come in and edit your document, to add things to your document, but it also includes the ability to store things. So for instance, you might be able to upload photos onto Google Drive. I know I have a bunch of stuff on Google Drive that I just have stored there because it's an easily accessed thing from any computer. And we'll talk more about how to access stuff as well. So you might hear a couple things also when we talk about Google Tools. G Suite is something that you may have heard before. It is a cloud-based office suite geared towards productivity and collaboration. Again, that's going to include things like Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, but it also may include a calendar. It will also include Google Drive. So it's kind of like an umbrella term for all of those apps. So Google Docs is basically the equivalent to Microsoft Word. It's Google's web-based word processing application. Now, it's not going to have like some of the advanced options as you would get with Microsoft Office applications that you may be paying for, but it is a kind of good word processing application if you're just trying to type up maybe a letter or a resume, just something quick, easy. It's not going to be too complicated. Google Sheets is the web-based spreadsheets application that is created by Google. So that would be sort of the equivalent to Microsoft Excel. And Google Slides is the slide presentation program. So that would be sort of the equivalent to Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay. So what are Google Tools? Those are going to be, so you're going to deal with files that are created, and they're going to be automatically saved to your Google Drive. So when you work with Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, those are going to be automatically saved for you. You don't have to find a space on your computer since it's a web-based program. They're going to be in your Google account. And all three also have apps on your phone or your smartphone. So I was saying before, you could get the Google Drive app. You can also get the Google Docs app, Google Sheets app, Google Slides app. That's useful if you're on the go and you don't have access to a regular computer. And they can also be, things also can be downloaded from those. So if you're working on a computer and maybe you want to download that to print, or you want to download it so you can attach it to an email, you can do that as well. And they would be opened. So for instance, maybe you're trying to send somebody a Google Doc. They can be opened with Microsoft products. So if someone got that document, they could open it with Microsoft Word or Excel or Google Slides. Though I should say that some of the formatting might be slightly different just because they're not, you know, it's a Google product versus a Microsoft product. So you might have, it's not going to be the same exact format. Most of the time I find myself not having to change very much if I open it in a Microsoft product. And here's sort of a list of more of the Google tools. So for instance, we may have heard of things like Google Calendar, Google Earth, Google Translate's a pretty popular one recently. I recommend using that. Now we won't touch on Google Translate or any of these other tools really today, but if in the future you would like to hear anything about that, just let us know. We can maybe tailor a class to some of these other Google tools as well. I use Google Maps pretty often. Google Street View is really helpful. And I think one of the more recent ones too is Google Meet. I think that one's sort of the equivalent to Zoom, where you can meet virtually, unless I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Okay, I know that was a lot of info right off the bat, but does anybody have any questions so far?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to log into Google Drive. If you don't already have a Google email address, you'll want to sign up for one. Now, if you're just attending the class and you want to follow along, you can go ahead and log into your Google account. Now, you don't have to. You can kind of just sit back and then do that after class. But basically, we're going to just jump in. Let me stop sharing, and I will jump in to our web browser. Okay. I hope you're seeing our web browser. It should have our library's website. Okay, so let's jump right in. Basically, to log into our Google Drive, we can do a couple of things. So we can either go straight to google.com. If I spell it right. So we're at the Google homepage right here, and you should notice in the top right corner, there's a couple of options for us. So there's a big blue sign in button that we can use to sign into our account, but there's also this little square that has a number of dots in it. If we click on that, that's going to show a bunch of the different apps that Google has. I'm going to move my little stuff out of the way so I can see that. Okay, so again, these are our Google apps. So as I scroll down, I'll see the different apps, and I can click on one and jump right into it. If I click on Google Drive, it would take me right to Google Drive, where I can go and sign in up here at the top right corner. Or I can just hit sign in, and then it would ask me to sign into my Google account. Or you can also go directly to the website. So to log in, for instance, to Google Drive, I would go to drive.google.com and then hit enter. And again, it's just going to take me to that Google Drive page. It's the same thing with Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, and we'll show that as we're doing the demos. But for right now, I'm going to just go ahead and log in from the Google homepage. So I'm just going to hit sign in, and we're going to sign in. Now this is just our demo account that we use. Okay, so now I'm in. And the way I can tell I'm logged in is up at the top right corner, I see a little icon that's kind of got an initial in there. So yours might look different depending on what your name under the account is. But that's how we know we're signed in. If I click on that, that would show me again what my info is, and I could sign out from there. But let's go ahead and jump right into Google Drive. So I can go to my Google Apps by clicking on that square with 9 dots, and then just click on Google Drive. Let me get my slides back open just to make sure I'm following where I want to be. Okay, so the screen that you're seeing right here is basically everything that I have on my Google Drive. So you'll see I have some little puppy pictures because I've saved some images onto my Google Drive. I also have a document, a little spreadsheet, and there's also some folders on here. So it is possible to create folders within Google Drive so you can sort some of your stuff. For instance, maybe you have a folder with your pictures in it. Maybe you have a folder with some spreadsheets for your budget. Maybe you have a folder for maybe your resume or career stuff. Maybe you're looking for a job. So that's kind of a way to consolidate some of that stuff so you don't see just a giant wall of files that are disorganized. But you'll also notice at the top left, there is a button that looks like a plus, and it has the word new next to it. So this is where I could go in and I could create something. So if I tap on that new button, then I have a couple of options. So I have an option to create a new folder. I can upload a file, I can upload a folder, or I can do some things with the tools. So I can create a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a Google Slide, a form. We won't talk about Google Forms, and there are some more options as well. So if we click on Google Doc, that is going to create a file for us. So let me click on Google Docs, and it's going to open up in a new window. You noticed, I'm not sure if you can see my tabs, but it opened up a new tab where my document has started. And up at the top, it'll say Untitled Document. And as I'm hovering over that untitled document, you'll see it says rename. You might be able to see that. I hope Zoom is allowing you to see that. But I can click on that and actually rename this document. So let's put in test document for my document. Okay. So we're not going to jump right into creating a Google Doc. Let me go back to Google Drive and show you there is a way to do new templates as well. Okay, so back at new, so if I hover my mouse over where it says Google Docs, there's a little arrow there on the right side where I can click blank document or from a template. So I kind of touched on that before with the template galleries. If I click from a template, that should take me to the template galleries page. Yes, perfect. So here is where I could go in and say I was looking to create a resume. It looks like there's some resume templates up here. I could also create a template or create a document from a letter template. There's also just some like project proposal stuff, sales, legal. There's a lot of stuff in here. I don't know how much Google has, but they have a lot. Let's see. Is there a way to see what other templates are in here? Let's see. I think that may be all of it, unless I'm missing something.
You can search specifically at the top too if you want.
I don't see a search button.
Oh, sorry. I just meant you can do control F and then search for like
Oh,
resume
okay.
and see which ones come up as resume.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm just doing control F. That's a keyboard shortcut to search for a word on a website. Really useful. So I'm just doing resume to see where it's popping up on the page. So there you'll see resumes. So if I click on one of these, it's going to do the same thing it did with the test document that created. It's going to open up and it's going to allow me to make changes to it, create more info. So I could change my name here. This is just going to be just like lorem ipsum text that will automatically be there, but I can replace that with my information. And of course we could change the name up here in the top left, test resume. So that's the options you have. If I was to just do new and then hit Google Docs, that's just going to do what it did before. It's just going to create a blank page instead of the option to give you the templates. I think there is another way to see template galleries too. I think that's the only way. Yes. Okay. So before I dive into the more about Google Docs, does anybody have questions about creating a Google Doc or about template galleries? Okay, I'm guessing no questions.
Yeah, don't see any questions so far.
Okay. So, like with Google Drive, there is also a specific URL that you can use to get to Google Docs. So if I do docs.google.com, that's going to take me to the Google Docs website. So let's go there. And since I'm signed in already, it's just going to take me to the Google Docs template gallery, where I can either create a blank document or again, I can choose something from their gallery. Let's see. Okay, it looks like they have a little more there. But let's go back to our blank document. Let's create a blank document. Okay, so let's name this test document 2. So you'll notice also at the top, there is a little icon up at the top left. It looks like a piece of paper, blue piece of paper. If I were to click on that, that would bring me back to my home page for Google Docs. So if I wanted to jump out of that, but I still wanted to stay in Google Docs, I could click on that and jump into another document, create a new document. I also have some tools up here at the top, right under the name of my document. So this will allow me to do things like insert an image, a table. I can do spelling and grammar check, and we'll show how to do that in just a second as well. I can also use some formatting, so I can make my text bold, I can change the font. There's also a way, if we go into the File menu, to share this document. We're going to talk about that in a second too. But you'll also notice there are some editing tools down there. It's pretty similar to Microsoft Word. Some of the stuff you might have seen before, like with the font sizes, the bold, making your text centered or justified, line spacing options, etc. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about sharing. So there's a number of ways to share. Again, I can do File, Share, or I could go in the top right corner and hit share. So maybe I was working on a document with Susan and we both wanted to collaborate on it. Maybe we were planning a new program and we wanted to throw in ideas to this document. So instead of sending her the document like through email or like attaching it to an email, I can actually just share it directly from this page. And that way she can jump into it and edit it in real time. So let me click on share. So now it's going to give me some options here. So I can, up at the top here, it says add people in groups. So this is where I could type in Susan's email or someone's email that I wanted to share this document with. So let me type that in. I'm going to type in, looks like it's autofilling, but I'll just go ahead and type it. Okay. So once I've got the email in there that I want, I can hit, what's this? Share people settings. Okay. So also good to know, if you click on the settings, the little gear icon, that's going to allow you to change how that person is allowed to interact with the document. So if I click on that, let's see, viewers. Okay. That's not the one that I wanted to look at. Let's see. Here we go. That's what I wanted to pop up. Okay. So I just didn't hit enter. That's when this one needed to come up. So you'll notice after her email, there's a little thing that says editor. If I click on that, I can change her permissions with the document. So right now as editor, she could go in and make changes. She could delete stuff. She could add stuff, just like as if she was the one that created the document. But if I changed her to viewer, she would only be able to view the document. She wouldn't be able to edit it. If I change her to commenter, she could see the document, but she could also make comments. So for example, maybe you were getting sent a paper that you wanted to grade and you wanted to put in comments there. Or, you know, you had like a newsletter that was sent out and you wanted comments on like maybe changes you wanted to have made. You could do that as a commenter. The difference between commenter and editor is editor can change the actual content of the document. The commenter will only be able to add notes or comments. They won't be able to change the content at all. So I'm going to do editor because I want her to have full editing capabilities. If I click on this checkbox where it says notify people, that should mean that she gets an email that she has this document from me. And I can put in a message. I could put, hey, looking forward to our next program. Let's come up with some ideas. Okay. And then of course it's got the little test document 2. That's the document I'm sending. So let me send that. Okay. So now at the top here, you'll see the share button has changed slightly. Now it says shared with one person. And if I click on it again, it should show me here, yep, that Champaign Library, which is Susan's account that she's going to sign in on, she's marked as the editor. Now I'm marked as the owner because I created the document. Okay. And then up at the top right also, you'll see 2 little icons. You might have more depending on how many people are shared in the document, but you'll see her little icon here. So that means that she's in the document right now. It's got a little color circle surrounding it. So I believe that means she's looking at it live. So let's type in something. Hi, Susan. What should we do for our next program? Brainstorm. Oops, what happened there? There we go. So you'll see as she's typing there, it says Champaign Library and it's got that color code that surrounds her user. So as she's typing, I'm seeing the document change in real time. So I used this quite often when I was in college. We would share documents, like if we were on a group project together, we would share our documents on Google, and that way we could all collaborate on it at the same time, and we didn't have to worry about constantly sending an updated document through email. We could just go in through Google Drive, get a document going, and then work in real time. And you should also be able to see if they make any comments. You can click up here in the top right corner where it says open comment history. So maybe you had a comment on one of the program ideas, but you didn't want to make a change to the document. So let's see if we can do that. If I highlight that text, you should notice at the right corner here, I can do a couple things. So I can add a comment, or I can suggest edits. So let's add a comment. So I just added a comment there to that highlighted text, and it should remain a little bit highlighted just to show you that there's a comment there. And again, I can go up here in the comment history and see our comments that we've made. Any questions so far about collaborating on a Google Doc? And I'm happy to show it again if anybody wants to see the process again.
I don't see any comments so far.
Okay. Let's see, it looks like there's also a chat that you can do too. I think that's a more recent addition to Google Drive. You have the option to create a chat. So maybe you had a group project, again, like maybe you were all working on your next summer program and you had a little chat going on the side. That's a possibility as well. Okay. Let's also talk about copy and pasting. So with Google Docs, they use more of the keyboard shortcut formats rather than like file, copy, file, paste, like you might see with a Word, Microsoft Word. So let's go ahead and copy something and see if we can do that. So to copy and paste on a Windows computer, you're just going to do Control-C, Control-V, and Control-X, depending on what your function is. So we want to copy something, so that would be Control-C. And then if we wanted to paste it somewhere, we would want to make sure we click somewhere where we wanted it to go. Let's put it under here. And then do Control-V for paste. There we go. It might say, I know before I've tried to do it and it pops up with the window that says the keyboard shortcuts. I think it depends on the browser that you're in as well.
Yeah, that typically happens if you're in Firefox or Safari instead of being in the Chrome browser. If you're in the Chrome browser, it usually won't show you that you can't do it with the mouse, especially if you're already doing it with the keyboard.
Let's see if we can copy, edit. Okay, I guess it is under the edit thing, but I think like you were saying, yeah, I've experienced that before where I go to copy it and it asks me to do the keyboard shortcut. So keep that in mind, that it might pop up with the keyboard shortcut when you're working with a document. Let's also talk about spell check, because I'm not the greatest of spellers and it's really useful to me to have a spell check option. It's really a useful tool on Google, or I mean on Microsoft Word, so I think Google has adopted that as well. Let's spell something horribly and see what happens. So I'm always horrible at spelling experience, because what comes first, the E or the I never know. Oh, it auto-corrected for me, but Susan has a great example down there where she spelled horribly, quite horribly. So if we go up to the top where our tabs are for the different tools, we can click on the Tools tab and you'll see an option for spelling and grammar. And then I can go into spelling and grammar check. So let me click on that. And now it's going to offer me in the top right corner an option to change it. Now I don't have to accept that. I know sometimes with names, that's the first example that's coming up for me, but For names especially, they might not recognize like your spelling of your name. I know for me that happens all the time. So you might have a little squiggly line under your name, and that might come up when you're doing spelling and grammar, but you don't have to accept it. You can just hit ignore. Or I have also added my name to the dictionary because I'm tired of seeing that squiggly line under my name. So if I hit the little 3 dots and add it to dictionary, then I don't have to worry about if I type in the future that popping up on my spelling and grammar check. So I'm just going to accept that horrible being changed, and now it's changed. So it says document looks good. We're good. Any other questions on Google Docs? We're going to cover Google Sheets next.
Rebecca, will you show how someone could clear the comment or suggest that the comment has been taken care of?
Yes. So let's go over to the comments. So let's see here. I think if you open the menu, here we go. So if I click resolve, that's going to hide it from my notification. If I click resolve, resolve. Okay, so now I see no more notification up in the comment history. Let's go back into it though. There should be, I think there is a, I don't know if there is a way to delete it, but I think if we resolve it, then it's not a comment anymore.
Yes, it's just that you can, so if someone had said, maybe you should think about changing your title, you can say, okay, I've changed my title, so now this comment is resolved. And if you hit resolve, then it takes it out of there so that you can keep track of what things you've done to change what in the document.
Yes, yes.
But it still shows up in the history.
Does that help answer their question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There was one other thing I was going to show with Google Docs. I can't remember what it is now. Okay, we'll just move on. I might think of it later. Let's go ahead and go to Google Sheets next. So I'm going to exit out of my little documents here, and now we're back on Google Drive. Now, it's the same thing as with Google Docs and Google Drive. We can just type in sheets.google.com, hit enter, and that's going to take us to our homepage for Google Sheets. So again, I can do the same thing. I can create a blank document by hitting that plus button, or I can go into my template gallery and see some ideas for stuff. Maybe I wanted to create a monthly budget, or I wanted to maybe create maybe I was planning a wedding or creating a calendar. There's a bunch of different stuff in here you can use. Let's click on monthly budget and see what happens. Okay, so we've got monthly budget open. And again, you can change, it's really similar to how Google Docs looked. It's got all those tabs up at the top that you can get into. It's got some formatting options, but the main part down here, you'll see all of the different cells are named on the top and on the left. So A, B, C. It's sort of similar if you've ever worked with Microsoft Excel. It's got the green like Excel, and it's got the numbered cells. Let me actually create a blank document. It might be easier to look at. If I click on Sheets Home, that'll take us back home where I can create a new document. Okay, yeah, that looks easier. So you'll see all of the different cells. It's a little bright on my screen, but you probably can see all the different cells on your screen. Let's see. There is a way to create a number of workbooks as well. So with Excel, you can create a spreadsheet and it will be within a workbook. So for instance, maybe you were doing a budget and you had a 2021 year and you had each month separated into a different spreadsheet within that workbook. So let's do that. Let me create a budget. So let's do budget 2021. Now I'm not going to flesh this whole thing out. I just want to show you that you can create different books down here at the bottom left. You'll see it says sheet 1. So maybe I wanted that to say something else. If I double click there, I can change my sheet name. So maybe I want to do every month. So let's start with January. And then if I click the plus button, I can add another sheet. And I can maybe do February, and so on and so forth. So then I can also look at my other sheets and jump between them with this menu button. So yeah, anything in January might be different than it would be in February, of course, because they're different sheets, right? So test 1, and then we'll do February, test 2. So you'll see as I flip between both, they're different, just because they're different worksheets. It's kind of like if you think of the physical like workbook, like if you have like a notebook with pages, it's sort of like these are separate pages within that notebook. That's kind of how I think of it. And then of course you have your share option. Again, like with Google Docs, I can share. And I could type in my person I want to share it with. And then she can be editor. Let's do that. Send. And she'll get an email. Now you don't have to edit this if you don't want to, Susan, but she's on here now. And of course it's got the comments. I can still do comments. I should also mention that as you make edits on Google Docs, on Google Sheets, on Google Slides, whatever you do is going to be automatically saved for you. So any change you make is going to be saved. You don't have to worry about doing file save as. It's automatically saved for you. So you'll see in the top here, it says last edit was made. That's just telling the last instance of something in the document being changed. So Google will constantly save those changes for you. You don't have to worry about it. That's kind of what I like about Google, is I don't have to worry about losing information. It's always there when I'm typing it in. I know I've had things in the past before where I've lost a Microsoft Word document because I didn't save it. But the cool thing about this web-based stuff is that it's saving on its own. And you can make another copy of it too. So if you did want to see some changes, like maybe you wanted to see version 1 and version 2, I would recommend saving the file to your computer so you have that previous version before you make additional changes. And we'll talk about how to save a file as well. Let me see. And it also does have a spell check option too. So if you're up in tools, is it in tools? I know there is an option. Yes, it is. Tools, spelling. It looks slightly different than the Google Docs. Spelling, spell check. I know you're probably not doing spell check that often on your sheets, but you never know. You might want to use it for something. Anybody have any questions about Google Sheets? I'm not getting too much into like the formulas and stuff as we would with Microsoft Excel, but there are options here for formulas. So you'll see the function buttons. You'll see some other options, like I can create a chart. I don't have any data in there, but I can create charts in here. I recommend if you have Google and you want to play around with these, just jump in, create a test document, try some stuff out, see what stuff does. You're really going to cause no harm by just playing around on it. Any questions so far? And I'm happy to demonstrate something, or if you have a specific question about Google Sheets or Google Docs, I'm happy to answer that as well.
No questions so far.
Okay, let's talk about Google Slides. I'm going to exit my little tab here, and we're back to Google Drive. We're going to create a new Google slide. Let's go to our template gallery first because I want to see what's out there. Okay, so we have our blank option for a blank template for Google Slides, but we also have an option. Maybe I'm doing a presentation for work. Maybe I wanted to create a photo album. There is a photo album option. Let's click on photo album. Okay. So again, this is Google's template, but the cool thing is you can always change this stuff. This doesn't have to be permanently set like this. So if I wanted to change this text, I could go in here and change the style of the text. Maybe I wanted to make it a different font. I could change out these pictures, move them around. They don't have to be like this. So keep that in mind. Even if you're picking a template, you can still change some stuff. That's what's cool about these programs. Let's go back and create a blank document. Blank presentation, I should say. So again, it's going to look pretty similar. It's got your tools. It's got your share option up in the top right corner where I could share it with somebody. You'll also see a present button. So this is the case where if I'm ready to present my my presentation, I can hit present and that will go into presenter mode. Like for instance, when I'm on PowerPoint and I do the slideshow, I start the slideshow, that's the same thing. I also have spell check up here in the top where it says tools, spell check. So if I needed to do that, I could insert pictures from the insert tab, change my slides, delete slides, create new slides. Test presentation. And of course I could change the way my slide looked as well. I could change the layout of the slide. I could change the theme as well. So on the right corner here, I can change that. Maybe I want it to look like that. I could change that way. There's just a lot to do. I recommend going in, creating a test presentation, and just playing around. It's a lot of fun. I like playing around on these kind of apps. You can even change your color. Look at all the different stuff you can do. Very cool. And you'll see here last edit. I can also click on that and it should show me my version history. Now I haven't changed very much, but there should be information about when last edits were made, and there might be other versions depending on if I had made big changes. Any questions about Google Slides so far? Let me click on that arrow by the present button. So there are a couple options. I could just click present and that would jump straight into the presentation like that. Or I could, let me put a couple more slides in here first. Slide, new slide, new slide. Let me change the format. Theme, layout. There we go. I can add a picture. Let's add a picture into here. Let's insert image. Now I can either search the web or I can upload it from my computer. I already know I have an image on my computer I want to use, so I'm going to click upload from computer. You might not be able to see me going into my file explorer, but it's opening my file explorer where I could go and find my image and then upload it.
We can see it actually.
Oh, okay, cool. I was worried it wouldn't for some reason because Zoom is weird, but I'm glad it did show that.
Same.
I can show that again if I went too fast. Let me show it again. I'm going to click Insert, Image, Upload from Computer. And then in the side here, I just went to my desktop because I knew that's where I had it saved. I select my picture and I click Open. And then from here, I could change the size. Maybe I wanted to put it on the side there. And then I could add now I got my little kitty picture in there with my presentation. Just something simple. Let me change my formatting. What's that look like? So you'll see also as I jump in between the different themes, you might notice the text change. So keep that in mind too if you're changing your theme. You might notice it changes some stuff, and I can always move some stuff around. I can make my text bigger, different type. Let's do another, let's do insert image and we'll search the web. let's search for, if anybody has any suggestions, I'm willing to take them, but I can search for something and insert it. I'm gonna do a dog since I already have a cat. There we go. Let's pick a cute one. This guy's cute. So I've got that selected and I can hit insert. Okay, cute. There we go, and I'm gonna put him on this side. I could move that around if I wanted to. Let me just make him the full size. I wanna make that bigger. Centered. Okay, so let's actually do our presentation. So if I just hit present, it should start it, I believe, from where I am now. Yes. But if I wanted to start my presentation from the first slide, I can hit that arrow and do present from beginning. That way, like if I have like 50 slides and I'm like in the middle of my presentation, present from beginning is easier than starting it and then having to scroll through like 25 slides. So there we go, test presentation. And then I got my puppy and my kitty. Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Okay. So let's talk about how to get those from Google Drive onto your computer. Maybe you wanted to download those. So let's talk about downloading from Google Drive. Let's go back to our Drive page. So there is an option right here from your home page to download directly without having to open something. So I should be able to, maybe I wanted to download that document that I was working on, test document 2. So I've clicked on test document 2. If I right click on it, there should be a window popping up. I hope you can see that.
We can.
Okay. And then I have a couple of options here. And you'll notice more towards the bottom of there, you'll see it says download. So that will actually download that to my computer. So you might have noticed in the bottom left corner too, it popped up with a converting to Word. So I think it's automatically downloading it as a Word format document. Now there is a way to download into a different format. So let's talk about that. Let's go ahead and open the document because we want to open it to get it to a different format. So I'm going to do File, and then you'll see this arrow next to Download in the File menu, where then I could go in and decide what file type I wanted it to be. So it automatically downloaded as a Word document when I did it from the home page. But if I come here, then I can decide which one. So maybe I wanted it as a PDF instead. I could do that right there. So now I've got it as a PDF on my computer. So that's super useful. Maybe you don't have Word. Maybe the person that you're sending it to doesn't have Word. You can save it as a different format that way. Same thing if I'm on Google Slides, I can do File, Download, and then I have options here where I can download it. Let me get into Google Sheets. There is also a Google Sheet. Let me open one, Budget 2021 that we had open. Same thing, File, Download, and it's got the first option as an Excel file, or I can do a different option like a PDF if I wanted to. I would say also that a PDF is a really useful file format if somebody is not sure on their end what type of software they have to open with. PDF is more of a universal file format that should open on most computers. You may have to download Acrobat Reader. It is free from Adobe. Adobe is the people that make it. But if you go to their website, you can download a PDF viewer for free. A lot of the stuff that we send out, if you've attended before in the emails that we send out, is a PDF, just because, you know, maybe you don't have PowerPoint on your computer, maybe you don't have Word. So the way that you are able to open that easier is with the PDF. And keep in mind, again, it may change depending on the format you're saving it in. So maybe you have a Google slide presentation and you save it as a PowerPoint presentation. It might not look exactly the same because maybe the formatting is slightly different. Keep that in mind as well. You may have to go in on the back side and change it if you're opening it with PowerPoint.
So Rebecca, we do have a question about downloading.
Yeah.
If you download a file to your computer, can you modify it from your computer? And if you modify it on your computer, do you have to then upload it again?
Yes. The answer to all of that is yes. So if you download it, say we were downloading this slide, this presentation. If we download it as a PowerPoint, we would be able to open it in PowerPoint and save it as PowerPoint. We could make changes to it. So maybe you wanted to switch some pictures around or change your text. Yes, you could do that. But if you wanted those changes to reflect that way, like on your Google Drive, yes, you would have to upload that again. Because Google Drive, you're making the edits within your web-based like universe. So it's automatically making those changes or saving those changes. But if you're on an app like Google, or I'm sorry, like Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, Word, that's not going to be reflected in Google because you're not logged into Google Drive, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Mostly if I'm making changes to something, I'll just go ahead and do it all in my Google Drive. And then when I go to save it, it's the final version. Now you may not work that way. Everybody has their own way of working, but I kind of usually like to get it all done and finished. And then I don't have to worry about, oh, did I get the most recent one uploaded or what's the version out there? Personally, I don't usually like to have two final versions of something if one of them's not the most complete. But again, everybody has a different way of working, and one way is not wrong, one way is not right. It's just the way you work. I think I've pretty much covered everything, unless somebody wants me to show something again or dive deeper into a question you may have. We can do that as well. We should talk about uploading as well. We talked about downloading since we just answered that question. We talked about uploading before very, very briefly, like the things that you could upload. For instance, I have these puppy pictures on there, the kitten pictures. Maybe I wanted to upload a document. You can do that. Let's do new. If I click on new, again, you're going to see that option there for file upload that we saw earlier. If I click on file upload.
Rebecca?
Yeah.
Hey, real quickly, Rich has a question.
Yeah.
He asks, so I don't need to buy the Microsoft Suite then? So what would you say about using the Google Suite of tools as an alternative to Microsoft's products?
Yeah. So I mean, that would be up to you whether or not you wanted to buy Microsoft. A lot of people don't use some of the more advanced features that Microsoft offers, and they find themselves being just fine with having a free version like Google Drive, Google Docs. It's up to you. I'd say it's a pretty robust system. It doesn't have things that are too much different than some of the Microsoft products, I find. So yeah, if you're just looking for something simple to create stuff with, I recommend trying it out, seeing if it does what you need it to do. And if you find yourself wanting more, maybe you pull the trigger and buy a version that's more advanced. But for me, I personally use, at work, we have the Microsoft 365. which is the online version of Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. And I find myself not even really needing to jump into some of the more advanced stuff just because, I mean, I don't really use it, but some people might. Just depends on what you use it for, I guess. What do you think, Susan?
Yeah, you can also consider what you mean by suite, because there are other products that are bundled with things too. So with, Word, Excel, and Sheets, they're all they're somewhat interchangeable. I kind of think of them as sort of pared down versions of the desktop. So the desktop versions have more bells and whistles of what they can do, like Rebecca is saying. But the Microsoft Suite also, has, if you want Access, which is a way to create databases, if you want Publisher, which is a way to create newsletters or flyers or publication documents that goes a little bit beyond what Word could do. You might consider whether or not it's going to serve your purposes, because while Google does have some things that are similar or can work, not everything works exactly the same. So sometimes it is worth, like Rebecca says, trying both out. You can always come and use the library's computers too if you want to test out whether or not you need Microsoft products specifically. We do also have creation stations that have graphic design programs on them too. So you could come and for the time where you did need to use Microsoft Publisher specifically, you could come to the library and use our version of it instead of having to pay for it at home too. So
Yeah. I would say when I was a student, like when I was writing research papers and doing really advanced stuff like citations and footnotes and just stuff that I had to insert into the document, that's when I really needed the paid version because I had more advanced things that I was doing. But I find as I've been transitioned out of school and, full-time job at work, I don't find myself really using those advanced tools anymore. But that's just me. So I recommend all the time to people, like if you don't want to buy it, you don't have to. Find your stuff that you need to do, and if you find you can do it for free, might as well, right? And I should say that Microsoft 365 is also free if you have a Microsoft account. Same with the Google account. You can just sign up for it for free. You do get access to those web-based versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I find myself noticing there is stuff with PowerPoint that I do need the more advanced version of the app, like the paid version. But for the most part, like my Word documents, I don't really find myself using the like advanced stuff on there. And this is just from me. We use PowerPoint so often with this. It's just for me. We use the app.
We should also mention there is a version of Microsoft 365 that does have a subscription that offers more, full, it's more features, more of the advanced stuff that you might need. So you could also get a subscription to it if you needed or wanted that.
Yes. Yeah. And we can help you do the research on that as well. Point you in the right direction. I can include that information. Okay. I'm going to jump into uploading unless anybody has another question.
No other questions so far?
Okay. So back on our Google Drive homepage, we're going to click on that new button again. We're going to click new. And then we're going to click on the file upload option because we want to upload files. Basically, we're uploading them from our computer and we're putting them onto our Google Drive. So I'm going to do file upload. And now I can go in, this is going to open my file explorer, and I could go in and upload a file. So that could be pictures, again, that could be documents, music, movies, stuff like that. As long as you have that file on your computer, most likely be able to put it onto Google Drive. So let's do our kitten one because we want to upload that. So I'm going to select my kitten. I'm going to click open. And now at the bottom corner, you'll see one upload complete. So it's marking my kittentree.jpg as being uploaded. And you'll see it's kind of entered my Google Drive page here right next to my other kitten picture. You can tell I like cats, right? So yeah, I could go in here and if I right click on it, I can do a couple things. I can share that. I can move it to a different folder or location. I can download it, preview it, rename it. So maybe I wanted to rename it something else. I don't really want to. Kitten Tree fits it pretty well, but I could do that if I wanted to.
I could make it Tree Kitten.
Oh, I could just reverse it. Let's do that. And you'll notice now it's not there anymore. Google Drive will sort everything alphabetically by default. So let's see, it should be down near the bottom, maybe. Where'd it go? There it is. It was blocked because I saw my little videos in the corner. There it is, Tree Kitten. And I think you can sort these differently as well. Yes, so here it's sorted by name. I can change it so it was maybe something that was opened recently or modified recently, and I could go A to Z or Z to A. And I could do list view as well, so maybe I wanted to see my stuff as a list. It's kind of similar to File Explorer. You can change the views, or you can do it as what it looks like. Sometimes it's easier to look at for me if it's just in a list.
And we do cover a tutorial of Google Drive in the Intro to Cloud Storage class that we taught last week. So if you want more of a tutorial or demo of Google Drive, that video is also up on YouTube.
Yes. And you'll also notice there's an option to search your drive too. So maybe you're looking for a file in your drive and you have hundreds of stuff and maybe you know the name but you can't find it. You can search that. So if I search Tree Kitten, let's see what happens. Yep, there it is. You can also click on the shared with me. So that's something that people have shared from their Google Drive to my account. So this, like if I was in Susan's account and clicked on shared with me, it would show those documents that I've shared with her. You can also put stuff in your trash, get into your storage. And there's settings and help up here in the top right corner. Any other questions or stuff you want to see again?
Don't see any questions so far.
Okay, let me jump out of here and jump back into our PowerPoint. Let's see if it'll do it this time. Nope. There's something about Zoom and PowerPoint that it doesn't like going from the one that I wanted to go from.
The current slide, yeah, it doesn't like current slide for some reason.
Don't mind me just flipping through PowerPoint slides. Okay, downloads, we did permissions, we did collaborations. Okay. These are also some additional resources that we have pertaining to some of the Google tools. So GCF Learn Free is a super useful website for tutorials, and they have more than just tutorials on Google stuff. They have tutorials on Windows computers, Apple computers, the internet, cloud storage. I recommend their website wholeheartedly, but their Google stuff is good too. I recommend checking that out. Google Support also has a page as well. So if you have questions about your Google Drive or any of the tools, you can go through Google Support and get answers to those questions.
You know, Rebecca, one thing we might mention is that if you are using a computer that is not where you're not the sole user of the computer, it's also a good idea to make sure you sign out of your Google
Mm-hmm.
account if someone else also uses that computer.
Yeah, let me show how to sign out. That's a good point. Let me share let me go back into my Google Drive. Okay, so we're back on Google Drive. Now, how do I sign out? We're going to go back in the top right corner where our little icon is for our account. So ours says C just because that's what our name is. Yours might say something different. But if I were to click on that, then I should have the option there to sign out. And I can click sign out. And now I can use another account. Maybe I wanted to switch to a different account. This option to remove account is useful if you don't want this to show up when you go to sign in. And I don't want it to say that anymore. I can click remove, take that off. That's not deleting your account. Don't worry about that. That's just taking it off so when someone goes to sign in, they can't see that sign in information, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So yeah, I recommend definitely if you're using a public computer, shared computer, make sure you're signing out. You don't want people to have access to your personal info. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoints. Okay, so let's do, okay, perfect. Yay, it worked. We will send this handout as well. The handout, I did most of the stuff today demoing, but we will have the handout with, it has screenshots of the stuff that I covered, and it will have all these links and stuff, so don't feel like you have to scramble to write all this down. You will get this sent to you in an email. And then I'll put up my information. If you have any questions after the class or anytime, you can always email me. Susan, also, if you want to maybe put your email in the chat, we both are happy to help outside of class. Don't feel like you're bothering us. We are here to answer questions. So reach out if you have them. And our upcoming classes for August, we are starting with Intro to Streaming. That's a pretty popular one that we've had, and that one constantly changes because streaming services are constantly changing. We also have a new class called Intro to Finding Podcasts. So we're going to talk about how to get into listening to podcasts. So maybe you're not sure what it's all about. You want to learn more about podcasts and how to listen, take that class. We also have Facebook and Instagram, which we've held in the past, and a new class, Intro to TikTok. So TikTok is a new social media app that you can get for phones and tablets. It's got sort of a younger audience, but a lot more people are using it recently, and we decided, hey, let's cover TikTok. So we're doing that at the end of August. And then, of course, we are still offering our Book a Librarian service. If you want a one-on-one help with your question, just fill out that form at champaign.org/bookalibrarian. Or you can always reach out to us via email, librarian@champaign.org. That will go to our reference desk. We also have a live chat as well if you have a quick question you want to send through chat. The live chat would be accessed through our homepage, champaign.org. And that, I believe, is the end of my slideshow. I'll put the upcoming classes back up. Unless there's another question I can help answer.
We could probably put in a plug that we are tentatively hoping that we will be able to do workshops in person starting in September. So we will be moving forward with having at least one webinar per month and then in-person programming for a lot of the workshops again. And that should hopefully start in September. We are planning to still do webinars as well. So we'll have both formats going forward because we have had feedback about folks that really like the webinar environment, and then from folks who really prefer the in-person environment. So we're gonna try to see if we can do both things. So
yes, it's exciting things coming up.
Yes, though all of August are online. They will, so you'll want to grab that Zoom link from the calendar.
Yep, you'll see it says Tech Workshops webinar series. And when you get into the calendar, it should say whether or not the event is a webinar.
Yes.
And of course, you can always call us and ask if you're unsure. Okay, I'm just gonna exit out of my presentation here.
Great. I'll bring my video back up. Great. Are there any other questions for Rebecca or me regarding the upcoming workshops or anything we covered today? All right. If not, well, then we will go ahead and say goodbye, and we hope that everybody has a great rest of your day. And we'll see you next Tuesday, hopefully, for Intro to Streaming.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.